Do you remember it?
Yes.
You remember it, right?
It's such a stupid movie. I don't remember all the
like,
specifics. I just remember the stupid comedy.
It's like, you want to talk about mamas. Like, it's funny. I don't know. I like it. So, hi everyone. Great morning to you. Welcome back to Try Together. I am your host and founder, Pratipa Day. Today, you're tuning in for your cup of courage, hope, and imagination. And today, I have green tea, matcha green tea, from traditional medicinals. I don't know. It's like a brand, right? It's like organic brand, like traditional medicines or something like that from the store. So today I have with me Miss Angela Hobbs, and she is here to talk about damaged parents and being relatively damaged and herself and being a mom. But I'm going to read a bit about her to you so you get a better understanding. Quite frankly, Miss Angela Hobbs is no one important. If you were to ask what she does or how she identifies, she would most likely say a mom. In the last few years, she has noticed decisiveness amongst groups and wants to show the world how similar we all are in our suffering and our joy. She does that with her podcast, Relatively Damaged. In addition to the podcast, she hopes to affect real policy changes for those who have disabilities in the United States, where when one becomes so disabled, you need in-home care, become a hostage to their home. Angela Talent is a mother of two and was diagnosed with complex regional pain syndrome, also known as CRPS, at the age of 35, which would rob her of the use of her hands and limit her ability to walk far distances. At the beginning of 2021, she realized she could use her ability to listen and have meaningful conversations to show the world how uniquely beautiful the human experience is, and started her podcast, Relatively Damaged. And you can also reach out to her to schedule to be a guest. And I'm going to correct myself because I said damaged parents. So it's relatively damaged.
It's both. I know it's a little confusing. And thank you for having me on your show, Pratipa. I'm honored to know you. Yeah. So no, I love you. I think you're beautiful. Your soul is beautiful, and your vulnerability, because your episode is coming out Wednesday. Like your vulnerability when I got to interview you was just so beautiful, and it takes so much courage to share your journey. And I'm just really honored that you were doing that with me.
I did actually two. I did one with you and one with Miss Vera Lee, and I will connect you both because on hers, I deep dove into the abortion aspect, and she was grilling me with questions. And that's very hard to do for someone to talk about that topic and to get really deep. And with you as well. So, but I'm glad that I did these two before the year is up. And yeah, you have to be yourself, even though, you make mistakes or misspell or whatever. Like when you're on a live and you're speaking, you have to be yourself. That's why if I was so afraid, like, oh, I'm going to say something wrong and all those things, like I wouldn't have come this far today. But I myself, I say what I say, it is what it is, and you move on. A lot of people live in the fear when they say something wrong, like, oh my God, like who heard that? Like, oh, that was so embarrassing. Or, you know what I mean? It's really not a big deal. Like you got to keep it moving. Thanks, CL.
Yes.
So how are you feeling today? How was your day?
I am, I'm feeling tired. I'm in Sacramento, so the smoke is crazy. And I also have asthma. So you guys may hear me cough. We'll just, believe that extra blessings are in store today.
What the heck? That is so funny. I love that. So where would you like to start?
Gosh, I can start with the confusing aspect of what is damaged parents and why relatively damaged.
Yeah.
So Damaged Parents actually is the website, which was created because I actually had an experience with a caregiving company. So my hands are... it's always backwards.
Like robotic. I like it.
But yeah, so I always, I have a telescope, a built-in telescope, because that's about all I've got as far as my range of motion here. And this other hand is stuck. But so Damaged Parents, I actually had a company. I had a caregiving company, and the company came in, and I had someone fill in for my regular caregivers, and that person really just didn't see the human aspect. I think they wanted to come in and just sit and be on their phone. I really don't know what their deal was because I'm not inside of them. I don't know.
Yeah.
What I do know is that at that point I was told we will clean, bathe, help you cook for yourself, and because I like to stir a little bit, I can stir a little bit. I want to participate. Part of life is participation, right? And I just
I like
and
that.
I also have 2 kids. Thank you. And they really limited it to what the CMS guidelines. So I think it's Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services is what it's called. And those guidelines they say just those things, right? So it doesn't say we're going to help you be human. We're going to help you with your hands. Like if I want to do something, which I believe is what a caregiver is here to do, is help me do the things I can't do for myself. So in those, and there were a few conversations and a few arguments, and they just said no. They said absolutely not. And I'm like, where is the human aspect? Even the doctors were confused. They're like, what? They're not going to help you achieve? Because the doctors, they know the importance of engaging in life and how much that helps not just you, but everyone around you, right? And in fact, it was one of the big things that was talked about when I went to a functional rehab place. We want you to engage. We want you to go to the kids' soccer games and the this and the that. It's really important. Even if you can't do it 100%, it's important to get out there and be just have life, right? So yeah, this guy even had, so the doctors wrote letters and so I had to get the paper trail and all that, or the email trail nowadays. And they said no. They absolutely said, nope, our caregivers cannot help you cook for the kids. I said, well, what about if I want to make a gift for the kids and I just need some help, right? Which I would need a lot of help, but whatever, right? They said no. And I'm like, well, I don't understand. You go to the facility where the old people are and they help them make things. So what's the difference? Wow. So I learned, at least with that particular company, that I was pretty much demoted to being a thing and not a human. And it was devastating and quite frankly angering. So that it took me a few months to get up the guts to address it all. Plus I had a fall and some things. But yeah, it was really, really hard. So damaged parents came from that because I realized that policy change needed to happen and that the word needed to get out that when someone is so disabled they need a caregiver, regardless of what level, our job is to help them be human, not to demote them to basically an animal. I mean, dogs are treated better than they wanted to treat me because you actually hold and pet and train and engage with a dog, and they just were saying, no, you're this. You can't do that? Sorry. Or that's too bad. So it was very devastating. So I had this idea, I'm going to do a blog because I used to love writing. In fact, we're putting together, we've got, all my caregivers have helped put all my poems into the computer. So I've got some, a book at some point that will come out. It's the title is Poems from a Lost Soul. Wow. Because really, seriously, I mean, I had written for many years and then stopped. But so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do a blog. And then I realized I was like, well, I can't interview and take notes and this. I'm like, there's got to be another way, And so I called up a friend of mine and she's like, you could do a podcast. And I'm like, I'm going to do it, And then she told me how to do and then I called another friend and she told me how to do everything. And the caregivers, because I had switched companies, were so into being supportive and helping me. I mean, it's just, I'm really honored with the people I have in my life right now. And it took some fighting, because a lot of times you'll hear companies or people will come up with this idea, you're just lucky to have caregiver. Don't get rid of that. Or, and I'll tell you what, there's some emotionally abusive caregivers. There's some they take advantage. So anytime anyone has a caregiver, the most important thing I could say is listen to your heart and say no when you need to say no. This is not working. And yes, there will be there will be sometimes a price you pay for that. But your health and happiness is so much more important. So much more important.
That would not fly with me. Because I call the mayor straight up anytime I had a concern regarding my mom. I would leave a message for the mayor's office. Like, I go all the way into emailing. One time, thanks for sharing your scenario. There was one time when a nurse pointed her finger at my mom's face and thought my mom was alone and from another country, can't speak English. I stepped up. Excuse me, do you know this lady? Yes, this is my mother. And it's like they shit their pants, basically. Yeah. And then I wrote a whole email, to the virtual hospital department and said, you will be hearing from my lawyer, because that's the kind of person that I am.
Oh, yeah. No, I've been demoted. I was told you sit your, I don't get paid enough to babysit all day. I've been.
I would have
told,
called the police. Get out of my house.
Right. You just sit your little self back. I got this.
Wow.
And so I try to explain to them, look, this is not about you just doing. This is a teamwork environment. You are literally here to help be my hands, which means we need to communicate. So if we can't communicate, then you've got to go. Because I won't deal with it. I've worked too hard to have a healthy home environment, and I don't think it's fair to myself or the children.
Yes.
To do that to them, to bring dysfunction into the home. Because that's what it is. And I think that it needs to be addressed, and one caregiver that doesn't work well with me may work very well with someone else, and that is okay. Just not me.
That's right.
And that's okay too, right? Like,
because you have boundaries, and it's a lot of people don't, and they may take that. The verbal abuse, emotional abuse, to normalize that, they don't look at it as a problem, and that's who it would be suitable for, which is very sad and unfortunate. Yeah.
Go for it. I was going to say, just real quick, unfortunately, that the dynamic of the caregiver and where a lot of caregivers come from the lower socioeconomic area. And unfortunately, that because I don't think as a society we've been very supportive of teaching emotional intelligence and things like that in those areas and communication skills, and the dynamic, everybody's got their journey, and at the same time, so it's like we've got to be aware that sometimes that's what happens, and it's unfortunate. And that's not to say, because I've also had people I had a young caregiver from a very well-to-do family who also had some interesting ideas and thought a gift meant that. Then she gave a gift to one of the kids and then decided to tell one of the kids that they didn't have a choice. They needed to do something. And so it was conditional. And I said, well, we're not going to have that, and you can have your stuff back. Like, that is not a gift. A gift does not mean that you get to decide what I'm going to do. So.
Wow. Sounds like they all need help. They all need some support and therapy and reprogramming. Oh, God.
Well, not everybody. It's just learning to work together, and I think be open to, there's something I'm going to learn from every caregiver, and there's something they're going to learn from me. And we're on this journey together for a reason. And sometimes that's me saying, no, get out. And other times it's us working together, and then learning how to, what's the word I'm looking for? To communicate, to, get through conflict. There's going to be a conflict at some point. It's whether or not we can get through that conflict in a healthy way.
I like that. You have patience. I like that. You have to. Yeah. I think this green tea is making me yawn a lot, honestly. think I'm becoming immune to caffeine. I was looking that up last night after I drank coffee. I was sleepy and I was like, oh, okay, my body's becoming immune. But, I have a question regarding your hand. So is there a, resolution for that? Will they ever, start working as normal?
So the answer thus far is no. I am there. So what complex regional pain syndrome is it's a neurological disorder. And they don't know where, if it so there might be an injury to an extremity, and then it doesn't heal right, or for me it was a sharp pain and bruising. I was typing right in my and it was only in my left hand, and after that my hand would swell up like a club hand, and then it would go back down. It would be hot, it would be cold, it was it stings, it doesn't sting. They're all I
keep yawning. I can't help
Here, let me I'm gonna yawn with you.
No.
I'm coughing, you're yawning.
I got sanitizer though, but I keep it real because I'm a human being.
But right, yeah, right.
You also have a soothing voice. I had another guest on, and she spoke so softly, Miss Emily. And sometimes she hops on here, and oh my goodness, we talk for over an hour, but it's so soothing,
Yeah.
Sleep. So
maybe I'll work in some more variation in my.
I need noise. I need more robust.
What could we do? We could sing a song.
Yeah, man. This is so funny.
Yeah, but so you just tell me. You ready? Okay.
Yeah.
So if you can't really see it, but I have that, on elderly people, that papery skin. I have that on my hands. My nails sometimes are hard, sometimes they're soft. It could be deep aching pain. It could be stabbing. All of the different pain things you could imagine happen. It could be muscle pain. It could be shooting pain. It could be anything. And then I've got let's see. Can you see? I've got wrinkly old lady.
Yeah.
So something is different in my hands and in my legs are not as bad. Something is different. Probably the very worst one, the one that I hate the most when it comes on is this bone scratching pain, and I don't know how else to explain it.
I got my ribs tattooed twice, so that chiseling pain on my bone, I went into shock, that kind of pain.
Yeah, sometimes I'm nauseous, sometimes it just depends. There's and I don't know when good times are going to happen and when bad times are going to happen. I just don't know. And that's okay too. I've just learned to kind of smile through it because I used to say with my kids, my pain is not their job.
That's true.
It really is not their job. Their job is to be kids. So when they would do something that would irritate me, or I really had to look inside and be okay, am I mad because I'm in pain? Am I frustrated because I'm in pain? Or is it because what they did was really not okay and I didn't like it? And I had to really investigate, what is it, and sometimes it was me and sometimes it was them. And then sometimes it was well, I don't know. So I'm not going to do anything in this moment.
And I know last time we had spoken, you said you have not tried any holistic remedies or, dietary changes, Ayurvedic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, no,
I'd Chinese medicine doctors or.
So I got rid of gluten and sugar, and, it's not as intense. It's still there. It didn't change. I meditate regularly, pray, meditate, whatever. I call prayer talking to God and meditating listening to God, so that we know what. So we're talking about the same thing, and all of those things I think on some level have helped, mostly in here though. The physical experience changed a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I've grown so much more on a spiritual level. I feel like in a lot of ways, my journey has brought me closer to spiritual understanding versus the human experience. And because the human experience on some levels totally sucks, right? Like, and so I don't know, maybe having this perspective that I'm here to learn and grow. Yeah. And even like with this, I don't know about you, but when I started this journey, I felt like I was jumping off. I call it jumping off cliffs, right? Like, because I don't know where it's going and I don't know where it's going to end up. And then being okay with it. And I'll have to tell you, I have had the most fantastical, I'm going to call it fantastical, experiences that I don't know if I would have had I not been open and listening. Like, even in my podcast, before a podcast, I would read over how, like, these questions about rethinking and staying open, so that I would really do my best to not put me into the podcast, because I wanted to understand how people got from this horrendous or very difficult, scary struggle where they thought they were at the bottom of the pit to where they are now. And had I, there were even some that came on that I'm like, is that a struggle? I don't know. Like, one of them, the most fascinating one for me, which I really questioned, was overexcitability. I was like, is that really a struggle? How is that a struggle? I didn't get it. And then the lady came on and I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a struggle to have this overexcitability of emotions. So they're always like really strong or not so, or they were strong no matter which way they went. And I thought, wow, I'm really grateful that I don't think I turned down anyone for my podcast. And I'm grateful that I didn't, because I don't think I would have learned as much. Like, and yeah, it's just, people are beautiful and they're amazing and they're resilient. And it doesn't matter whether someone has been homeless, they've been in jail, they've been, they work with significantly financially well-off people, or maybe they are that person. It doesn't matter. They still struggle. So in essence, we're all equal. We are all one. Like, one person said to me, like, I think it was Fred, when we were in the episode In the World, Not of the World, and he's talking about I am, and saying I am, and just stopping at I am. And then, but in that episode, I believe we also talked about how people are just other parts of us. And so I started going around, and as I looked at people, I'm like, why am I being so harsh? They're part of me. Why am I being so hard? And I started going, I mean, it changed my whole perspective. I was like, but I don't think I would have been open to that had I not interviewed another guy who was like, well, if everyone has a purpose, it's something to the effect of, well, did we just not have a purpose when we were a baby? I don't believe that's true. And that I can't remember his exact quote. And I'm like, oh, well, what is our purpose? And then he helped me find like 6 words that determine, that kind of say a lot about who I am. So it's courageous, connected, fascinating, fun, insightful, and fantastical. So, yeah. So at the very end, I put I am, because there is something special when I say I am, and I don't follow it up with an emotion or my name, or like, it just opens up this whole world that I didn't have access to before. So I don't think, like, I don't know about you, but I feel like everybody comes in at these times for the reasons that they come in. And maybe they're right there in that moment for the perfect reason.
Like you being here today.
Maybe.
I didn't plan to, like, we didn't initially plan, to do this together. So I do want to ask you regarding damaged parents. Do you ever have people contact you saying, regarding the name, that it's like a negative connotation, damaged parents? Because when I first saw it, I was like, this is not very healthy. Like, damaged parents. I was like, I'm not damaged. I don't want to, like, my story's not damaged. That's my initial thought,
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yes, of course I do. And I think that what it was, and it came, when something comes to you and you just, there's a truth to it that, and in your heart, it's just the way that you need to go. Like that's damaged parents came to me that way. And in that, I realized that so when I was thinking about it, I'm like, why damaged parents? Everybody else, even in my family, is like, damaged, we're not, you're not damaged. I'm like, well, here's the thing. From society's perspective, I am. I don't, I saw a post the other day on one of the disability groups, and they were showing this particular person was applying for a job, and like the checklist was disability, 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 ability, disability, 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 disability. And they're not going to see the ability.
Trash.
They're going to see, right. So it's like, so in a way it was calling out what it is, because I don't think people do it on purpose. Just like with the term disabled, literally means non-operable. So there's already an implicit bias that's, whether people realize it or not. I'm going to disable the alarm. It's not going to work anymore. Right?
They need to change this word. I don't understand why this is still used.
Well, and now I had actually said something in the disability community on that level, and basically the word is turned into a pride thing now. So if we don't now, you have to take, well, you don't have to, but I paid a price for saying, what if we were just differently abled?
Yeah, I was gonna say that. That's what they turned it into.
Yeah, and the argument is no, we need to own it, which is fine. And I think on some level, like if you're so disabled, you need disability benefits. I mean, going through that process is extremely painful. It's like you have to lean into what you cannot do. And if even people along the way that are trying to be helpful are like, oh yeah, you need to not do anything. And it's like, but I can have conversations. I can talk to people, like, and then it's all about what you can't do. And then you're afraid to even say if you can do anything, because then all of a sudden, if you can, then you don't qualify. And then if you don't qualify, how do you get your livelihood? And then because if you can't get your livelihood, then how do you live? And then before you know it, you're homeless, right? I mean, because it takes like, excuse me. So how it takes a long time usually for like CEOs to find jobs or higher level employers, right? I think the same thing happens with disabled people. So it's almost like we're so specialized, like I'm going to flip it, right? We're so specialized in our ability but then when we go get a job, we're not paid that same difference as like a CEO or a higher level employee, even though we have this perspective that 90% of the population doesn't have. So maybe we could argue we're more valuable because we've had that introspection. I can do things like look around the house, or I'll be watching somebody in a process and I'll be like, if you did it this way, you'll only have to touch that thing once. A lot of people they can't see that. They just do. Whereas, so that would be efficiency. So I don't know. You see what I'm saying? It's almost how you look at it.
Yeah, that's why they say, people who are autistic are more brilliant, as in with painting, mathematics, different things. I was skimming over a movie yesterday. It's a Hindi movie. I don't recall the name, but the child did not have arms, and the principal is already judging him. How is he going to write? And then he wrote better than, the principal even can. And he was the smartest kid in the class. The children couldn't answer questions that he could. And, because him not having arms, he went throughout his life that way, especially in the South Asian community, being judged that, he's trouble for that reason, instead of treating him that, hey, let's support him instead of judge him and make life harder for him. Most people will commit suicide, if they didn't have the tenacity to uphold that kind of positive attitude. But he lived on to going to college, still being made fun of. And then I remember it was like ragging, and they were like, they're not gonna, mess with him because he's already messed up. They said to him, like, oh, you're like, God already like messed you up. So how much more like messed up, and it's so funny that it's kind of like a tattoo. Like, I have tattoos and I forgot, like, oh, my ribs are tattooed. It's not something you pay attention to. It becomes a party, like me wearing glasses every day, And for the person, without arms, that's his norm. It's like a tattoo. Like, it's not a big deal because it's just a part of how he is, how he is born. For you, your arms being that way, yeah, it's physical. You could see it, but now you just routinely, I don't know how mindful, but you just have the daily routine of how you go about things, because it's just a part of how things have become for you,
Yeah. And for me, because it happened, so I had 35 years with my arms working differently. So that transition was, it still is sometimes extremely difficult. And I find myself in those moments of, ooh, I really want to do that. I really want to, and yet I can't, where I'm not capable. I try not to say can't, because
yeah, don't say that.
Because it's just that word implies victim, I think, on some level, right? And I'm not that, I'm not capable of physically doing that. That doesn't mean I can't go enlist assistance to get it done.
I'm going to send you, it's a free movie. It's called Dreamer. And one of the ladies, Jessica Fox, and she flies a helicopter and plane with her feet. She's the first woman to do that. But also, me mentioning the student who didn't have arms, it's like, you still have your arms. It could always be worse, in a sense that, oh, they may have had to decapitate, your arms. So would you rather have them like this, or would you like not have them at all, to where you could even stir? You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like a blessing in that way too, because you could just not have it all, like how people do. So I think that's really good that you're able to still have,
Yeah, and I think too, I try to be careful about saying it could be worse, because with that, because I think that even the person without arms has so much value, and our journeys are just different. So whereas I have tremendous pain, and maybe they don't have that pain,
that's true,
which might make other things easier. And so I think it might just be different. And that's really a lot of the message that I want to get out there in society, is that, it is expensive to be disabled. It's not that I want to be at home just collecting. I want to make a difference. And I have a strong belief, because of other people that I know who have disabilities, that they want to make a difference too. And they want to participate in life. And maybe not to the same extent as I do, right? As far as like talking on podcasts and be more public about my journey. And yet they make a huge difference in the people's lives that they live with, that they touch. Some people get to touch, one or two lives, and that's perfect, because those one or two lives maybe wouldn't be what they are now if it had been for that interaction. And other people are called to go public, and maybe that's all right too. But I don't think one is better than the other.
I like that. Yes, you have spiritually grown. I can see it, all the wisdom. I do want you to share more about, your podcast and, what is your big dream? Like what, I know you want to bring change with the laws. So
Yeah.
yeah, tell us more about, what you want to do. Mm-hmm.
So the whole idea, actually, thank you, because I never really finished that part of the story.
Yeah.
Is so the whole idea behind the podcast, when the blog idea came up and then the podcast, what was happening was I was realizing that 10% of the people have disabilities and are challenged in some way, and that's, while a large amount of the population, not large enough to affect policy change. So what I realized is that I needed to go and enlist other people to see the world, or at least hear my perspective and maybe shift their thoughts a little bit, to go, okay, you know what? I'm going to support these people with disabilities. They just need a little bit different help than I need. And because they just need different help than I need, then I can vote for these other policy changes when and if they start to take place. So really just bridging the gap that says, regardless of any difference you might see, we are all part of the human experience. So that is that goal, which is pretty a big goal, like there's so much divisiveness. There's so many fighting words in society right now. And what would happen if we just shifted to love? I don't think any, right? Yeah, thank you. Thank you for making the
That's
heart
why
for
it's
me.
the red for love. I don't have anything.
Yeah, I mean, and it's really hard when someone hurts us, or we feel like the choice they made wasn't in line with our values. Well, I don't think anyone purposefully, well, except for maybe the psychopath, but or the sociopath. Well, and that's not even them purposefully going out of their way to hurt other people. It's just to get what they want and need,
disease,
because they don't have empathy. But so even then, I don't think people really intend to hurt other people. I think they would have to be confused to do so. I mean, okay, you're okay controversy wise, right? Yeah, the whole Afghanistan thing.
Go ahead. I don't listen to news.
I just, the fighting words of, I can't remember what I saw.
I think you're the first person to bring up like politics.
Yeah, well, it can be related to anything, right?
Yeah.
But the fighting words, if you don't do the, and it could be in relation to politics. It could be relation to vaccines. It could be in relation to anything.
That's a big one. I just would not even spend my time. Sorry.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like, I can't decide for someone else what's right for them.
Yeah, like arguing with people. Like I see people posting their opinion, but you don't even have to. It's something so personal. That's like me stating what kind of birth control I take. Yeah, I take Depo because you should not be taking the ring. And it's like, that's like what it's like. And my friend had brought this to my attention when we were at lunch one day months ago, and this table was at lunch having conversation about vaccines. It's like, really, you have nothing better to talk about, as in like it's consumed your life so much. And it was just interesting because that's something really personal if someone did or not. It's like none of your business, like me saying, do I take birth control or not? And it's like, that's a personal thing, or my blood type or something I'm sharing with you that I don't have to. But people are so keen on sharing everything now and post like, I said what I said, this is my stance. No one's asking, sweetheart. Like, no one's asking you what your stance is. Like, you need a vent in your journal. Like, this is just me being blunt. And it's like, you don't have to make these posts about like, F this, F that, or what's going on in New York, what's going on where. Like, this is consuming your mind. You could be posting something healthier for the world. You could post something better. You don't have to spread this kind of energy. And I don't think people are not quiet within who are doing that. they're not quiet.
I don't even think they realize that what they're spreading is that
Venom,
that frustration and that fear and that,
yes.
because even some of the people I know with super big hearts, said, like they post things and then they're certain that the other side is wrong. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they've investigated and they've made the best decision they can for themselves. How do I know that's not right for them? How do I know? I don't know.
I'm still laughing because I'm comparing it to birth. It's like me stating, getting on here. Yeah, I take Depo. Did you know? Like when I went to Planned Parenthood, they increased Depo to 150 milligrams instead of the 104 that I usually take. It's like I could sit here and have a conversation, state my opinion about that. Like I just injected myself with this Depo shot. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
The government, the insurance needs to do this. Da, da, da. Like I would not spend my energy sitting here writing about something like that. I'd rather do Chai together.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like some people are, excuse me, some people might take offense to that comment, right? And an offense, where does being offended happen? I think it really happens inside of me. When if I'm going to take offense, and usually when I take offense, it is because of there's something true for that comment inside of me, right? Like, why do I have to be offended when someone says or does something that I don't agree with? Like, I mean, I was chuckling during what you were saying because it brought up this thought about, recently I had, by the way, my hand gets cold. So if you see me do this, that's all it is. The temperature changes.
Aww.
But so recently I had to call in one of the kids to help me because there was I didn't understand what was going on. They were asking for how I identified gender wise. And I'm like, I was like, what do I identify as? And they're going through it. And one of my kids came in. She's like, you're two-spirit, because that's just your soul. Like, because I'm a very spiritual person. I'm going to take it as a compliment that they see me as very, very spiritually, a very spiritual person. But in reality, that wasn't how I am. But then I thought to myself, why do I need to tell anybody what I'm doing in the bedroom? I don't understand. And I just think it leads to well, and also if I start saying in my mind that if they don't call me she, her, hers, or if they don't refer to me as that, then they're injuring me. And when they start injuring me, and then I become angry. And then when I'm angry, who am I? I'm not nice. And I don't want to spend my time. I mean, in that sense of anger, it's a dysregulating emotion like frustration and things like that. And what they found, Heart Math Institute has done a lot of research on this, and the heart actually vibrates, right, at a certain level. It's also it's electric EMF. It has an EMF field that can be detected 3 feet or more from the body with your emotions. So if you and I were in the same room with like another person, we could actually, you and I could make a sign to each other, and then we could start getting into coherence and sending love to that person, and eventually they will get into the same thing. So you've got this jagged line that happens with frustration and anger. And then you've got when emotions when you've got regulating emotions, they're very smooth, like a sine wave.
Oh.
So what happens when I'm offended is the jagged line. And then if I spend time in the jagged line, what that really means is my body is not vibrating at its optimal performance. So I would rather spend more time over here in love than I would in the jaggedness, because the jaggedness, I think, also brings on pain and suffering in and of itself, right? Like, I don't know. It's very, very interesting, the science that we're learning and how it impacts everyone. I wish so I'm really worried about all of this making sure I identify, because you know what? If I call someone by the wrong pronoun, I do not do it on purpose. If anything, it might be because I don't know, or I didn't realize, or I just wasn't thinking, or I got too moving fast in my thoughts. I have no intention to hurt someone else. And if it does happen and they're offended, like, let me know. And there's also nothing I can do about the offense that you've taken inside of you, no matter how much I want to fix it, no matter how much I can love you, until they deal with it on their own level, then it's going to continue to happen, So maybe my thought is, if someone refers to me not the way I prefer, which quite frankly, they can refer to me however they want, I still usually answer, but I'm still going to love them, because, unless, even if, and that gets really hard too, because I can get into this mindset of they're doing it on purpose. Is that true? It might not be.
You're better than me, because I don't tolerate that. No, I correct people right away regarding my name, things of that nature. No, because I don't know where I had picked up on this and learned this, maybe through Mr. Les Brown or my coach, like any mentorship, or I'm not sure, but over the last year, I definitely learned, you let people know how to pronounce your name and how to, those kind of things. I don't tolerate, like, if I let you know, and then, I will correct you spelling or what have you. I'm very, it sets me on fire. And that's something I'm working with. Like, is that a trigger for me? Why? And it's like, I was looking at myself, and like, I figured out why certain things are. But it's just, it's because I believe most of my life I spent letting people walk all over me, that now my boundaries are so high that it's just kind of like, yes, like I'm just a yes or no person, or like, this is what I'm very assertive. And since I'm so bold and assertive, most people may not be used to that energy. And it's interesting, because I'm still learning more about myself, as in like how to tailor to other, like how to maneuver it, right? Because it's so strong. But another thing is, it's not my responsibility that other people are insecure. It's not. I'm not going to make myself less insecure, because I'm very secure and very confident, obviously. So it's interesting. And I did want to go back to gender, because I studied interpersonal communication for undergrad, and I had an intro to comm class, and gender, that's when I learned it was social construct. And I started learning about, sex versus gender. That's why people have gender reveals. It's really a sex reveal. Like, knowledge, when applied, is so important. Education is so important. There's so many things I wouldn't have learned if I didn't, immerse myself in the college culture and different things. And studying is so big for me, and reading books is so big for me. I really am advanced. And I say that because it's true. Like, I've been saying that a lot lately, because I've really, really, really done a lot of work on myself. And it's when I come across certain people who want to, let's say romantically, and I just know within the first week it's a no, and I let them go, because you're not on my level. And I'm that direct. And and it's the fact that I'm this woman today, because before, I had no standards, and now it's like, this is my level. And it's like, I want someone who can uplift me, not where I have to carry you and keep uplifting you because you're not secure within yourself. So that's something that I've learned that I wanted to share.
I think that's great.
It's
and I
so
think
important.
and I think, like I said, if I offend someone, let me know. Because I can try to change, because what does it hurt me to change? At the same time, recognizing the offense takes place inside of me. So if I'm going to be offended, then I've got to understand what my offense is about, and then decide if it's something that, if it's true to my heart, do I need to do something about it, or is it not a big deal? And my concern is that the more specific we keep dialing down as far as like just society. Like, we get these groups, and then now we have this, and then we have this, and it's so easy to offend anyone nowadays. is what the point is that I'm trying to make is, I could have no intention. I'm already offending someone.
just by
for being
comment.
me.
People ask like share something or say something, like they want your opinion, then you say it, then it's like, damn, like it's like you ask for mine. So, but it's interesting because I actually don't comment other than cute, pretty. Like I don't comment my statements on people's. I did last night once, and that was about it, and it went well. But it's really like a risk. It's like it could go right or it could go left, depending on how the person's mood is, like what kind of mood they're in, like how they could respond or react. It's not me, it's them. I'm calm over here writing what I feel. You're like, no, that's not right. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, funny. And if you're a people pleaser, and a lot of people I think are, then all of a sudden this idea is brought in, oh no, I offended somebody. Oh no, now I've got to do this, or now I've got to do this. And before you know it, you're walking on eggshells. And what I'm saying is, let's just take responsibility for our own feelings and what's happening inside of us, and then talk about it and say, look, I'm noticing that I'm having this feeling, and I don't like it when I hear you call me, I don't know, let's just say him, because we're talking about gender. Like, okay, is there something I can do or try to do that might make that better? Because I'm really not trying to hurt your feelings. Just having those conversations where it is possible. Because when, at least in my life, when I believed that I was purposefully being hurt, man, I spent some time in the gutter, if you will, emotionally. I was miserable.
Yeah. Me too. I want to mention one thing is change. I recently said to my friend regarding change, like, how we're not supposed to change for anyone. And he he's in a long-term relationship, and he said to me, that's not true. Like, because, in relationships and stuff, you can change. He said, change for the benefit of you. If it benefits you, but not if someone is, using that to your advantage or, manipulating things of that nature. But it can be good to change and adapt and compromise as you grow in relationships. You have to learn to do those things. If you're hesitant, resistant, like, no, I'm not going to change for anyone, that kind of mindset is not going to get you something healthy and long term. If you're not willing to, like, if your partner doesn't like something you keep doing, you're like, I'm not going to change myself. It's like, that's going to crash. You have to find a place of peace. And that's what he was basically telling me, that he doesn't believe it's true that, to change, to not change. Like, I'm not going to change for someone, or to, be yourself. It's like, yeah, be yourself, but, change will happen, Yeah,
change happens. I think for my thought process on that is that change happens naturally anyway. That's why you have to, even when in a relationship, you have to keep getting to know your significant other, because that change, you don't even spend 24 hours a day with that person if you're in a relationship. and even if you did, you could be standing right next to them. Perception and perspective are the deciding factors which lead to choice. So if I'm standing next to someone and we both see the same thing, we don't have the same life experiences. So imagine like that is a 2D experience, right? But that person standing next to me, when they give me their experience of that very same interaction or that very same experience, maybe that just makes it 3D instead of 2D. So if I can, it's kind of like I always have told my caregivers, I'm not a backseat driver, I'm a co-pilot. And that's actually saved us from an accident, right? So if just think of it as a co-pilot, or we're giving more depth to this world that we're experiencing. We don't have to, it doesn't have to be exactly the way I am. And knowing how the brain works, our brain changes so much anyway, especially when recalling experiences, and it's a natural thing that happens, that it really matters, which I'm going to jump here for a second, because our brain changes everything depending on the emotional state and things like that, of how we perceive things. It becomes really important how we tell our life story.
I like that.
So
I am looking forward to your book. Very spiritual. Do you have a title for it yet?
The book is going to be Poems from a Lost Soul.
So, oh yeah,
So
you did say that poem from
yeah,
the Lost Soul
yeah.
by Angela Hobbs.
What Angela Talent? Well, either Angela Talent, Angela Hobbs. I have all the names.
Is that your last name? Another one of your last names?
Right. So Hobbs is my maiden name, and Talent
Okay.
is my married name, which both are on Facebook. Quite simply for the reason, or I think that both are almost everywhere, but they think that the last name Talent is not a real last name, and
that's why I thought that was for your podcast, like Talent. I'm like, oh, like I thought that was the thing. I didn't know that was your last name.
I just haven't sent in the
That's so
ID,
cool.
so the way around it is to include both.
That's fun for conversation.
Yeah.
But before we do wrap it up, I do want to ask you once again, like, what is your big dream? Like, I mean, you having, a condition that doesn't define you still. What is it you really want? Do you feel like, if you're no longer in pain, that things will be better? Or like, how are you now? And like, what is it that you want, to propel your life and like be your dream,
My dream really is to share love and to bring people together. Like I want to see people. Well, I think I see people in this light. I want to see more people be able to say, you know what, love is the most important. And how can I respond to, how can I come from love in everything that I do?
Unconditional love is the answer. I believe that too. Love is the answer. I recently came across that as well. And you stuck with the same dream. I asked you earlier and you stated the same thing. So that is really what it is.
Yeah.
I love it. Would you like to say anything else before you go?
I just wanted, I feel really honored that I got to come and participate on your podcast and that we got to talk about some really tough subjects, I think, that a lot of times don't get talked about. And I feel honored that you have a space where I can do that. I just feel really lucky to know you.
Oh, I see it in your eyes. Yeah, like and today is like when I made the video and post that it's been 1 year and I was just like, wow, like I've been committed to doing Try Together like every day, literally, even if not a live stream every day, but I've done like the groups and like other things for it, right? Every single day. And it's been a year. I've never been so committed to something before. And it's like, wow, like I'm really like, this is something that really shook me up that I stick to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not everyone can do that. Because I had a friend tell me like what keeps me going. Like most people would just stop. Like, it's pandemic and like, I'm so committed because it's something innate inside of me. It's not something I stop. It's part of me. You know what I mean? Like it affects community. It's about people. When it's about people, that keeps me going. If it's something about myself, like I don't know if that will keep me going. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because you don't have to, because like it's like easier for me to show for other people than for myself. Like that may sound like, oh, as if I don't care for like what I'm saying is, you could be lazy, when it's like, oh, you have something to do. Like, I don't care. Like, I could do it tomorrow. It's about me. But when it's like I'm doing these live streams, the stories for other people, it's like I have to show up no matter if I'm sick or whatever. There's been time when my ankle was in the cast, like I was still sitting here, like no one would know. It doesn't really matter, right? Like Mr. Les Brown, my mentor, like no one cares like what happened to you if you lost a shoe or whatever. Like you still show up anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just have to do what you have to do. Like I would go to work like this, right? Like if I had a job, like I would show up to work, because I get the value from it. It serves. So this is service, to the community. Like you have to show up because then I wouldn't be consistent, persistent, like committed. There would be nothing and it wouldn't flow. It would fall apart and people wouldn't know me for it,
Yeah. Well, you've got that there's that bigger purpose that no one can, I don't know if we know exactly what that is, but that sounds like that spiritual thing to reach more humans and really say, you know what, you're loved. And I think that's beautiful.
Man. Yeah. I just want to say one more thing. I recently said to someone who was at, their corporate career and they're miserable and it's not what they love to do. I said, you could die today and they will replace you today. I said, but what are you creating? Something you love to do, right? Like, let's say if there were artists, like you can have your own studio with that corporate money, invest, open up your own studio. and people will remember you for it. If you pass on today, they would come to, your memorial, put up a picture of you, make a statue of you, all different kind of artistic things, for example. But if you died at a corporate job today, that you're just a number. They don't care. You didn't leave an impact. And I'm so passionate about leaving impact. Like, even if I pass on, people will know my videos. They can look back at me like I left something behind. What are you doing to leave something behind? That really is the question, because a corporate job isn't what life is about. I feel like I've never had one for that reason, but
yeah,
that's
and I
not
think
life to me. That's not life.
Yeah.
That's dying to me, in my perspective.
Yeah.
That would not bring me joy. I would feel boxed in and suffering, but people do it. I mean, it's a system, but it's really like to do your own business, invest in yourself, do something else. And that's the person's mindset is, of course, different because they're in that system, like job system. But I was telling, like, making them come over to the other side, like, like, nobody's gonna remember you. I'm sorry, but you're just another person, right?
Well,
like,
yeah. And it might just be part of their journey. Maybe they have to go through that to get to where
I'm
they need
shaking
to
them
go.
up, like, wake up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, wake up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I did a talk recently at church, and one of the conclusions I came to is that's what it. There was a scripture, I think it was in 2 Timothy, but basically it's like, if God wants to wake them up, they will. Like it's so then
Hopefully I was helping.
Yeah, no, and maybe in that moment, what I'm trying to say though is, you never know if you're going to be that message from God. And you never know. You don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so if you feel called to say something, say it, because you might be the boat for that person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You never know.
I like that. God is working through someone for the message. Yeah. Through people.
Yeah.
It was so great having you on here today. That was so much fun. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Pratibha. Yeah, you too. Thank you so much, Pratibha. I loved it. It was fun.
Yes. And be careful with the air there. I don't know what you could do about that. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you.